Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to be removing some of the bald cypress out of the seed trays that I planted them in last winter, and they've grown like crazy. If we look at this one, some of the highest trees are almost 3 feet. But I've got way too many seedlings, so I'm going to plant them with the fusion technique. And the fusion technique is basically a way you take multiple seedlings and plant them all as a group, usually around some kind of metal mesh or even a wooden cone or something like that. And then they all fuse together. So like if we take this group here and I squeeze it like that, you can see that when all those trunks fuse together, I'm going to have a tree with a base about 3 inches across. And to get these little tiny guys to be 3 inches across would take 4 or 5 years easily. So that's the fusion technique. You utilize very small seedlings in a group to create a much thicker trunk over a shorter period of time. So I'm going to try to empty this whole tray. So I'm going to cut out squares. Just cut here and cut here, and then take those trees over to my workbench, put them into the pot, root prune a little because the roots are probably a little too tall, root prune them, and then tie them up, and you'll see the results of the fusion technique. So here we are. This is the first group that I dug out as a unit, and there's about 10 trees in there. So I'm going to root prune because you see these roots that have hit the bottom and then they're racing along the bottom. I don't want those. So I'm going to prune the roots to get rid of those roots that are moving along the bottom. Then it's just a matter of placing them in the pot. And I want to try to get the trees so they're not twisted at the top. And then I'm going to add some of my landscape mix, and it looks like they're a little too high. So I'm going to give them another pruning. Just a little bit. And even though it's the 30th of January, they still have not broken dormancy. So should be okay with doing this. If you cut the roots of a bald cypress while it's actively growing, it's going to struggle mightily. Okay, then do the soil. And then I'm going to pull them apart a little bit. Now typically the fusion technique includes some kind of cone or something in here. Sometimes they talk about using a wire mesh, but I don't think that's going to be necessary with these. So I've got, and the circle isn't going to be perfect either, but I don't think that's a big deal either. So I now have this pruning tape. It's actually grafting tape, and it sticks to itself. So I'm going to cut a little bit of that and then come up about 12 inches. And tie them off in a circle the best I can. And then if we come up like this, I'm going to do it again. A little bit higher up. And there you go. Now the theory is that as these guys grow and each individual thickens, they will begin to hit each other and fuse together as one trunk. That's why it's called the fusion technique. So I'm going to do that with virtually all of the trees in that one seed bed, except for some of the very larger ones that I will be potting up individually. So I've segregated some of the larger ones out. So like here's a much larger one, much thicker than any of the rest of these guys, and also considerably taller. But the vast majority of them are going to get a fusion technique. And it's the same for all of them, so I'm not going to just show you over and over and over again doing the same thing. But there you go. And once they begin to sprout, I'll give them some fertilizer. And once they really begin to take off, I'll give them some real good fertilizer. And I may, after they've rooted into this pot, put them even into bigger pots, or maybe even in the ground, to really get them to fuse more quickly. So I will keep doing it, and then I'll show you the batch. Here is a group of 10, all being grown by the fusion technique. Now you can see some of the root balls are pretty wide. Now this one here is root ball. Why did I say root ball? You know what I mean, the stems. So this one here is a little thinner, no big deal. But that's the process. And once again, conventional wisdom says that you put something inside here, like wire mesh. If you look up the fusion technique, you'll see that. And actually, Michelangelo Bonsai used a wooden board that he then screwed a 4x4 onto. Then he shaved the board, the 4x4 down to a cone, and then he attached the trees to the cone with the roots sitting on top of the board. And that looked like a really cool way to do it, but it was going to take up so much space. If you look at that video, and I'll leave a link in the description, you can watch that video. I think the results he's going to get are going to be amazing. But the reason I'm doing this is I don't have this space. So to do something like that would take up so much more space. But it is an interesting way to do it. So that's all for today. I actually have a few more to go, and then I'll be done. But I just wanted to show you the end result. And since I've never done this before, I have no idea how long it's going to take. My guess, well, not guess, I know for sure that the more fertilizer they get, and after they root out into this pot, the bigger pot they get, go into the ground, lots of fertilizer, let the tops grow like crazy, because I did not chop any of the tops actually right so far, then they're going to fuse that much more quickly. Trees that are left in these small 8-inch bulb pans will fuse more slowly. But being in a bulb pan, once you're ready to put it in a bonsai pot, then you have a whole lot less root pruning, and etc., etc. So there's a trade-off between really fast growth to put them in a much larger pot or in the ground, and keeping them in this pot and then having less root pruning to put them into a bonsai pot. So it's all an experiment. My whole life has been one gigantic experiment, and this is nothing different. So I will probably take a proportion of these guys and give them either a larger pot or the ground, which is the largest pot on the planet, and then see the results. And of course, if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll be able to see those results too, because I will be posting videos, updates on these guys and all my trees. Every time I do something on any tree, I try to have a video update. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Has anybody else tried this fusion technique? Because this is not unique to bald cypress. Michelangelo, I honestly forget what tree he used, but he certainly didn't use cypress. You can do this on any tree. So if you plant elms and you have 100 little tiny seedlings, you can use this fusion technique to create much, much thicker trees much sooner than if you had let those guys grow individually. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.